Hey, Steve.
Hey, Jim.
What's in the box?
Well, in here, this is a sealed container that I have Ringo Starr's toenail.
What?
Seriously, I was told by a guy who knows a guy that knows another guy that this contains Ringo Starr's toenail.
Well, how do you know they're his? Did you have him DNA tested or something?
What? No way. And then I would have to unseal it.
Welcome once again to Two Guys Talking About Records, a vinyl community podcast. My name's Jim. I'm normal and I own a record store.
And I'm Steve, maybe not quite as normal, and I'm a record collector. Maybe that's my problem.
You know, it's kind of funny that you mentioned Ringo Starr's toenails because just a little while ago, the internet lit up because he posted a picture of his toes after a pedicure.
Oh, did he? Well, so he's getting that, and they're just, grab them toenails.
He probably had the pedicurist sign some sort of non-disclosure. Holy cow. Well, if you haven't guessed today, we're going to be talking about, odd merchandising. Not necessarily Ringo's toenails, but other stuff that bands have done or their labels or some other company has done over the years to help cash in on a band's popularity. I don't know where this is going to go, but this could be a fun one.
Yeah.
Definitely no toenails, though.
And it's all about what can you think of, and let's go from there.
Well, since this is a vinyl community podcast, we will actually start off, as we always do, talking about this week's acquisitions. And I got a couple of goodies, including one of those, oh my goodness, ones. But let's start with you. What did you get?
Oh, boy. Okay. Well, I'm kind of excited about that one. In fact, is that it?
It is.
Oh, my God. All right, it is. Wow. Okay. Well, I was down in Detroit, so I went to Hamtramck, and I went to a place called Record Graveyard. It was kind of, when I parked my car, my only thought was, I hope my car's there when I come out. And it was. So I was I thought, boy, there's a bonus. But inside, I was able, the very first album I went to buy was called Donald Byrd's Best. And it's like his greatest hits. And the reason why I bought it is because I get in there, the guy has his record, puts it on the turntable, and I'm listening to it, and it's the greatest, the gimmick record stores do, which you're equally as guilty, putting something on, and then you go, oh my God, I have to have
Yes.
that. This is so good.
How we roll.
Yes, it is, and it works. But I also found on there Pink Floyd's A Momentary Lapse of Reason.
Okay.
I've tried to get it here, but it sells right away as soon as you put it out.
Yep.
Yes, so I have not been able to grab a copy of that. And Madonna's Immaculate Collection from 1990, two-album set. So I have all the Madonna I need now.
I say going back to our greatest hits discussions.
Exactly.
That's one of the artists I would see.
Yep. And then I had a friend of mine, he sent me, we were kind of, a number of times, I know I've kind of ripped on Rick Astley's Never Going to Give You Up. Yeah. Well, he sent me the 12-inch single with 4 different mixes of Rick Astley's Never Going to Give You Up. And it was funny, I got that just after I had watched this episode of Ted Lasso, and there's a funeral, and they sing that song at the funeral. I come home the next day, there I have this album. So, yeah, Mark, if you're listening, darn funny. He also sent me a Cynics and a Good Rats album.
You have been Rick-rolled
yes,
with
I
a 12-inch
have.
single.
But it was pretty good.
Well, cool.
So, what about you? This is pretty amazing.
Okay, well, I got a couple this week. The first is it was a keeper. It wasn't going to be originally, but after I listened to it, I thought, well, this is cool. Johnny Winter, you know him, you love him, is just a great blues guitarist, but a heavier blues guitarist. Mm-hmm. And I found an album from 1969 called Johnny Winter, and the name of the album is First Winter. Let me double check to see if that is indeed his first. I think it might be. Discogs is slow. Actually, no, this is his third album.
But it's his first winter.
Well, let's call it the second. He's got 3 albums according to Discogs, 4 released in 68, or 1 released in 68, and then 3 in 69. But somehow Discogs put Second Winter before First Winter. So we'll just call this his second album, possibly. But First Winter, in listening to this, holy cow, it is not the bluesy stuff that you know Johnny Winter for. This is just weird psychedelic rock, straight up psych pop with lighter lyrics. And it's bluesy, yes, but you can hear him in there. But it's just a different experience listening to him do psych rock or psych pop almost in this.
Wow.
So it's also a misprint copy where they misspell his name as Johnny Winters on the label. So
neat.
you know how that rolls. So that's a fun keeper.
You know, the picture on there, he looks like really old.
He does, but that was 69, so he was not.
Wow.
Okay, the second one was the Take Your Breath Away. Oh my goodness, what did I just find one? This is from an artist named Randy Holden. And Holden, after doing a little bit of research, this is the only solo-ish. It's called the Population II from a different band that he was in. But Randy Holden had gotten his start with a couple of other smaller bands, but most notably Blue Cheer. So he came up in this real, I'm really psych rocking out today, I guess, with Blue Cheer. But from what I'd read, he wasn't too happy with the way the direction was going with Blue Cheer and their brand of psych rock. So he released this album called Randy Holden Population II, which, according to Wikipedia, take this as you will, is kind of being credited as the first doom metal album. And I don't know if I'd go that far. It's a psych rock album, true, but it's a heavier vein, much like Black Sabbath. So this was released in 1970. So again, you're getting in that era when Sabbath and Ozzy and they were really kind of coming into that sound, creating that heavier metal sound.
Yeah.
And this one is a crossover between that hard rock and heavy metal and psych rock. Something I think Bill probably would have been going just nuts over. I listened to it and I was mesmerized because I like early Sabbath. So this is really good. And I was even more thrilled when I looked at the prices that Discogs. Now, we've talked before about some of the inflated prices on Discogs, but typically that refers to stuff that's common being jacked up like crazy. Yeah. You and I know that once in a while there are some real rarities that pop up on Discogs that are probably worth that price because that's what they are. The median on this kicks in around $375, and the high end on the sales came in at $1,500. And I looked at the ones that sold, and they were all VG Plus and VGs. That's what this is. And the cover is just phenomenal on there as well.
Wow.
I'll let you listen to this later. So this one, I thought about putting it out, but I think I'm going to keep this one because I do like this music, and this is a good addition to the collection on there too. The odd thing was, and according to Discogs, the notes on this, it says that nearly all of the original copies have a drill hole through the center of the cover and then ultimately the label, and sure shooting this one does as well. Normally I'd associate those with a cutout. That's a form of cutout or promo copy, but for Discogs to note that most of these have that, I think is just kind of a little oddity as well. So it's not a rarity by any means. But this is the only release from 1970. It was a U.S. on Hobbit Records. There were subsequent reissues from Germany in 82, 89, 95 CD versions of this. And there was some LP reissues in 2018 and 20. Remastered ones. I don't know if there was ever a record store day, but this is one of those ones that was picked up on by some of those labels as a very rare psych record that needed to be released. But for some reason, the original still holds its value. I'm pretty jazzed about that.
A couple years ago, that was the reissue in the vinyl community.
Was it?
And even like Noble Records put out his own printing of this. And so these little record stores were doing their own printings, and people were going nuts. It was selling out so fast, so quickly. It was the talk. In fact, I have a reissue of it.
Do you?
Yes.
Okay.
It took me a while to get one because it kept selling out everywhere, but it was the thing to get.
So you know what I'm talking about with the sound, right? Did I get close to describing it?
Yeah, you did. And when you said, I thought about putting this out, I began to sell it, just...
Okay, what can I do?
Yeah, it's like,
if I rent Cat out.
That's right. What? You know what? I really don't need a vehicle. I'm sure I can ride my bike around Michigan.
Value-wise on this, given what I've seen on Discogs and the rarity, I was going to think that this version probably... the one that sold on Discogs for $1,500 was probably a fluke. But this has got to at least be in the $500 to $750 range, I think.
Easy, yes. It is such a rarity, and it's so very good.
Well,
that is amazing.
You can look at it.
Yes.
Don't touch. No, don't even
touch
look at it.
That's
Don't
right.
even
Don't look at it. The value might go down.
So I'm pretty happy about that, and I'll just kind of keep it a secret where I got it, other than to say that I found one.
Wow. Amazing.
So before we get to the merchandising subject at hand, and there's some news that ties into that as well, there's a couple of other news items that we each wanted to bring up today. Let me start with one here first, because this rolls into Record Store Day. Black Friday is coming up quickly. And we have joked before about the Randy Macho Man Savage.
Yeah.
And back in the early April Record Store Day, that came out. The big, kerfuffle was is that the demand for that was so much, and there were so few printed, that Record Store Day proper had to take over the assignment of which stores get what. And no store in the country, no matter how big or small, got more than one copy of this. Tremendous demand for some reason. We got one copy here. The first or second person in line took it, and that was it. Until they said, well, you know what? We found some more of this Record Store Day exclusive, and then they went out after the fact. And then all of a sudden, a couple weeks ago, there was another pressing of that done. So much for the Record Store Day exclusive. But that jumped. The Record Store Day list price on that was $35. The reissue that came out, just this past week, listed for $45. You ready for this now? Releasing on December 22nd, 2023 is the Randy Macho Man Savage Be a Man picture disc for the low, low price of $41.
Unbelievable.
So much for the Record Store Day exclusiveness of that. But I guess this is a picture disc. It's not the same color version.
Yep, that's right. It was exclusive. Just that certain one was exclusive. Now, we're going to put out 100 other types, but that was exclusive.
And speaking of other nonsense, very quickly I wanted to mention Taylor Swift. That was also another big release this week with the Taylor's version of 1989. We didn't get a whole lot of them here at the store, but, respectable number, and folks were coming in and getting it, which is cool. But one thing I couldn't talk about last week, but I can now, is the fact that we were given, through our distributor, down from the label, very specific gag orders of sorts to not talk about the variants, not to show pictures of the cover, not to make any social media posts about this. I joked that any breaking of those rules would result in swift punishment, but yet to be seen. So I adhered to this because the punishment, by the way, was if you get caught talking about the variants or showing pictures of the variants before the actual street date, then you would be cut off from purchasing all UMG products.
Wow.
As a record store, that's kind of a death knell. It's a big threat. Well, lo and behold, I'm only a couple here in the state, but came to my attention. I saw them on Facebook. A store in the Detroit area, as early as Tuesday, started talking about, and they said, can you keep a secret? We know there's variants coming out. So they knew they shouldn't have been talking about that. Then there was another one up in northern Michigan, posted pictures of the covers, which was very explicitly said not to do. So it'll be interesting to see if there is any punishment meted out to these, because I am certain that they were reported by other record stores who were following the rules.
Yeah.
So we'll see if that actually happens or anything does. But just so you guys know, down the line, when there are major releases like that, sometimes we are really bridled, so to speak, on what we can and cannot talk about and or show until that release date. Now, in the grand scheme of things, this is a Taylor Swift reimagining of 89. The songs are out there, but not these versions. Personally, I don't think it's that big of a deal. The Stones, the week before, was kind of close to the same thing. They were holding that close to the vest, but that resulted in shipping delays. So I don't know. The labels get a little weird from time to time with their demands, but what are we to say to go against them?
Well, it just seems so. Don't show what it looks like. I mean, I just don't. If you want to buy it, I don't get it.
Well, from a marketing standpoint, they're really trying to just work the true fans, the super fans, into a froth.
Okay.
Is there going to be a variant? We don't know. But I think the Taylor Swift fans did know. There was leaks and news about this. They just didn't know what the covers looked like or what color the vinyl would be. And the label was just trying to keep that suspense built so that the excitement of the Friday release would be there. I can't blame them for that.
Wow. Okay. Huh. Well, I wanted to bring up, we talked about Bandcamp, and, during the pandemic, these Bandcamp Fridays had kind of disappeared, which were really, really big. They still do have Bandcamp Friday, and it is the first Friday of every month. So this, it's going to be November 3rd. And it is a great time for those of you that use Bandcamp or you've never been on it. If you buy on that particular date, that first Friday of every month, the artist gets more revenue from that purchase. So it's a good deal for them. We had the discussion about what's going to happen with Bandcamp with it's being bought. Who knows what's down the line. Mm-hmm. But at least this is still going on, once a month to help the artists. And so, I need to think about that more because I do buy from Bandcamp, but kind of just hold off and wait till Friday to give it, buy my purchases then.
And then the artist sees a little more benefit to that. So
yeah.
Well, hopefully that'll still work out, and with all that's going on with the Bandcamp purchase and staff cuts, that won't go away completely.
Exactly.
Speaking of staff cuts, you saw another big news article, which leads directly into our discussion at hand. Yeah. We wanted to talk about merchandising. Now, a couple of different ways that Steve and I talked about approaching this. There's a couple. We all remember buying albums earlier that had a poster or some sort of insert in there. The Who, very famously, in their Live at Leeds, had 12, I think, different inserts. In fact, I got an email from somebody last week saying, I've got a signed contract from The Who for their Woodstock appearance. Is it worth anything? And I'm like, well, you know what? I have got one too. There's tens of thousands of them out there. And then they made it look real, but that was included as an insert in The Who's Live at Leeds. But no, that was a serious question. But that was always cool when bands would put stuff in there, the Pink Floyd posters, and we'd pull them and put them up on the wall back then, not realizing how collectible they would be.
Those darn stickers were everywhere. Hey, I'm going to put this on my instrument case or whatever.
But if you'd left it with the record, it would be worth something. So there's that type of merchandising, but that's done as part of an album's release. And those are always cool, and they still do stuff like that today, in certain cases with posters or other inserts and the like. But merchandising of another sort goes on, whether the band's management or sometimes the label or sometimes an outside company like Funko Pop comes into play to merchandise off of the name and popularity of an artist.
Exactly.
But Funko Pop's in the news.
It is. And, this happened earlier in the year, but there's still a lot of questions that are going on. And it deals with... In last year, Mondo was bought by Funko Pops. Now Mondo actually started in a theater lobby, and that's where they began down in Austin. And then, they began by making posters. Then they moved into toys and into record albums, and it was very limited run. I mean, you have some Mondo.
I love the Mondo releases. The artwork on them are incredible.
And it's so hard to get. I mean, man, if you don't grab one right away, like the vinyl, it's gone.
And they hold their value is what's most impressive. Yes.
Well, Mondo was eventually bought by a company called Alamo Drafthouse, which was an indie theater chain.
Yep. They have a big film festival.
Yeah. Well, they went bankrupt. So they began to sell, and so they sold Mondo in 2022 to Funko for $14 million.
Wow.
So, and then Funko says, we're not going to change anything. This ties in, we have a lot of licensing, and this is going to work really good, and it just should be perfect. Well, in 2023, Funko posted a loss of... In the fourth quarter of 2022 of $46 million. Wow. Now, previously in 2022, an outside investor had come in, one of those investment groups.
Yep.
And so they gave Funko Pop $250 million, see what they could do. And so then the investment group got a 25% share in Funko Pop. So now they have their hands in this. Well, once there was this huge loss in the fourth quarter of $46 million, something had to give. A couple things happened. They said they took $36 million worth of inventory of these collectible Funko Pops and just brought them to the landfill and buried them. just to write off the
Really?
inventory, a complete write-off.
Oh,
You had to get rid of them. Instead of, clearancing them, no, we do it this way, I guess for tax purposes or whatever.
how tremendously wasteful is that?
Exactly. Well, I'm sure they're biodegradable.
Well, everything is over the
Yes.
course of millions of years, but hey,
Yes. And, eventually aliens come down. Well, what the hell's this?
this is a weird race of creatures.
Yeah, this is so, look how odd they look. But what also happened is they had to cut salaries, and they looked at Mondo. And even the two creators of Mondo were let go. They totally almost took out their poster division. They're still doing posters, but they just totally cut the staffing at Mondo. And you were just saying you've been trying to get some Mondo merchandise, and it's taken a while to come in.
I have been waiting for the third album of the Cornetto trilogy from Edgar Wright, the World's End album, to go with the Shaun of the Dead and Hot Fuzz, the Mondo release. And that finally popped up, and it had been years and years rumored, but it finally popped up a few months ago. I hopped on that and pre-ordered it, only to be greeted with, "Oh, hey, it's going to be delayed another month or two." So we'll get it to eventually.
Yeah, it just, so you have these great little companies, and I mean, it's just the way of the world. You get bought up by a bigger company, you hope to grow, you hope to expand, but when things go bad, things have to be cut, and well, that's an easier one to cut because you know what? You're not really married to those people. You haven't worked with them a long time.
Yeah.
It's easier to kind of chop them.
An absolute shame for Mondo. I hope that they continue or are able to do what they're doing because they do put out a great product.
They do.
Even
yeah.
I just get the vinyl, but their posters are also phenomenal. Yep. Never sprung one of those because it's tough to kind of to justify a couple $100 for a poster. I'm an art guy, but not that kind of an art guy. So.
Yeah.
But the collectible on the other side, the Funko stuff is interesting. If you are unfamiliar with what Funko Pops are, well, first off, congratulations for being spared that.
Yes.
But you take any kind of pop culture figure and then you shrink that down to a 2 to maybe 5-inch plastic doll with a large head and buggy eyes. That is a Funko Pop. These things are everywhere for television shows, for internet personalities, for rock stars and musicians and the like. That's a big, big side of this is the rock and roll merchandising side of Funko Pop. These things are everywhere, and I'm guilty too.
Yeah.
I'm looking up on the shelf. I've got 2 different Funko Pops, but only for Rush. It's not like I go too crazy. I got those because I'm a Rush fan. Mm-hmm. Do you have any Funko Pops?
I do not. My family threatened on buying me some. I go, well, what am I going to do with that? I think I actually have one. Someone sent me a Funko Pop. I'm pretty sure I have one. I can't tell you even what it is.
Well, these, I mean, they're interesting, but in the long run, people collect for reasons. We've talked about that before. You collect because you enjoy this. It makes you feel good to have it. And I'm not knocking those that are, set into Funko Pops. I know people that do have lots and lots of Funko Pops, and that's their thing. They collect them. I know people that collect just rock and roll Funko Pops and Harry Potter ones and the like. Those are all out there. I'm looking over our distributor, and there are some just the more popular ones. Well, Funko Pops, I guess, can come in a couple different ways. There's just the doll itself, which can be taken out. But, of course, you lose the value when you open it up. But there's also, like, Funko Pop almost dioramas. One of mine is the Rush Exit Stage Left, which has the album cover in the background and the Funko Pop of the woman holding the curtain in the front. I'm looking at some of these other ones that are available. There's an upcoming one for Ozzy Osbourne with the Bark at the Moon album cover and the Ozzy as a werewolf in front. So that's kind of cool and would be something for folks to get if they're a big Ozzy fan. Eddie Van Halen is in here, Michael Jackson, several, I mean, you name it, they're going to be in here. Shakira, there's the Michael Jackson Thriller. All over the place. Any artist you can think of has been licensed by Funko Pop, and they've got a little figurine to go with that. And mostly these things retail for $12 to $15 to $25. The larger ones with the album cover dioramas are up there in price a little bit. But it's another angle of music collecting that's being, I don't want to use the word exploited, but taken, Funko has dived into this head first, dove into it head first, and they're making money at it. Well, apparently not as much, for they can bury a pile of them.
Well, true. Well, and Lego is making album covers now. They've done, I think, Beatles were pictures of the Beatles.
Wow.
that you can buy. And they got the Rolling Stone, the symbol with the tongue coming out. They have that in Lego. They are really dipping their toes into this water. Well, not so much toes. They've totally jumped into the water right now. And so you're going to see more and more of this kind of stuff coming from Lego.
Now, I think with music merchandising or merchandising of artists and their likeness, it can go a couple of different ways. You get the people that are going to collect Funko Pops, that want to collect nothing but Funko Pops, or the people that collect Lego. I know people that collect Lego stuff too. So we collect albums. That's our thing. Other people have this thing where they collect that certain stuff. But then you're going to have crossover. And I think that's the aim of a lot of this marketing of artists especially, is we're going to try to get Jim to buy some Funko Pops. He would never buy a Funko Pop unless we give him some Rush ones to get a hold of. Yeah. Then he'll buy a Funko Pop. You know, what would get Steve to buy a Funko Pop?
Mm-hmm. And with artificial intelligence and all that, you go on, you buy anything, suddenly it's out there, and they know exactly what. I mean, just look at Facebook. I don't care if you look at just one thing, it can be on a totally different site. Suddenly on Facebook, you're getting all these ads for all this other stuff that's related to it.
They know how to get to us, especially if we... And I don't know, my wife would argue, but I don't really consider myself to be a Rush super fan. I like them, and I have a lot of Rush knickknacks up there. But the Funko Pop appealed to me. Yeah. So I thought, well, I'm going to go ahead and get a couple of these. Mm-hmm. Now, the danger do you remember how collectible Beanie Babies were?
That's my exact thought. As you're talking Funko Pop, I just think Beanie Baby,
There were rock and roll Beanie Babies out there, too, weren't there, several
years
ago? And that market just absolutely crashed. I don't know if they ever buried them in a landfill, but Beanie Babies now, generally speaking, I think maybe you can find one or two that are worth something. But everybody that bought them thinking they're going to be an investment down the line really didn't pay off, did it?
You want to hear the scary thing? They're starting to come back and come up. You know, I guess enough got thrown away that now they're becoming worth more again. You just have to get a bunch tossed out. People go, oh, this is crud, and throw them away, you know?
Wow, maybe that's what they did with the Funko Pops.
Yeah.
I'm still hung up on that, burying them in a landfill. Yeah. That's beyond...
$36 million worth.
Wow. Well, that's why we're not major corporations, I suppose, right?
Yes.
Now, when it comes to merchandising other stuff, we're going to be as guilty. You mentioned that we do what record stores do. You're wearing a Radio Wasteland t-shirt right now. I'm looking over at, we're trying to expand into some brand marketing with our store, where we're offering t-shirts, sweatshirts, and we've always had t-shirts, but we're really putting a push on with t-shirts. We've got, the canvas record bags, tote bags, to coffee cups and dog bandanas on the way. So I'm stepping into that. So I don't know if I can really speak too ill about, what bands do to merchandise their image and market, because that's what we're doing here.
Well, even for my YouTube channel, you're wearing my t-shirt that I bought for my YouTube channel, and I had coffee mugs. Did I get into it too deep? No, I did not, but still, I bought some. You go out, you merchandise, you put it out there, you kind of advertise, and I know I get so many people, hey, I've seen that t-shirt everywhere. Not really, but...
Well, and that's all a part about getting the word out. We're all capitalistic in nature at some point, aren't we here?
Yes.
So I want to get the word and the image of the store out. What better way to do that than have folks wear T-shirts and hold coffee mugs?
Yeah.
But bands, they have a larger appeal than some little record store in Midland, Michigan is going to have.
Yeah.
And over the years, and we've done a little research on this, there have been some tremendously good and some tremendously bizarre merchandising efforts done by bands, labels, and or entities, a different corporation that makes these things to tie in, and then they license through the bands. Some of this stuff is just wacky. And we mentioned it last week with the Kiss coffin.
Yes, which, and just an update on the Kiss coffin, Dimebag Darrell from Pantera is buried in one. Honest to God truth. He bought one, and that's where he's at.
I would be curious. That's a little, okay, Dimebag Darrell, maybe he's going to be an artist and do that, but how many people, just regular people, would be super fan enough to say that when I die, I want Gene Simmons' face emblazoned on my eternal resting place?
Well, for those of you that don't have yours yet, it's been discontinued. Okay. So they no longer will make them.
You might be able to dig a few up here and there. Yeah. Oh, geez, you see what I did there? The other thing we mentioned last week, and this is no longer an official Kiss item, but they were selling air guitar strings at one point in time.
Yeah, they were.
And Kiss actually, this was official. I did look this up. They took some heat because essentially for $5, you would buy a bag of air with a Kiss logo on top of it and say, I've got some strings for my air guitar with the licensed by Kiss. But I guess if we're going to talk about merchandising, I would almost have to say that Kiss is probably the undisputed kings of merchandising, especially their own stuff. Looking at the Kiss website, the Kiss official store online, they have the regular stuff like T-shirts and stickers and buttons, which is expected for bands to have. But actively now on the Kiss Online website, you can get yourself not only T-shirts, but several different wall flags of their album covers, pins, playing card sets. The coffee mugs are on here. Kiss cornhole boards.
Oh.
If you've ever played cornhole, there are cornhole boards out there for Kiss. Lots of flags, patches, guitar picks. They call it a bum bag, but that's essentially a fanny bag.
It is a fanny.
It's a bum bag. We mentioned the playing cards. Tote bags are on here. Of course, hats, slip mats. What else did I see?
Koozies.
Yep, there's koozies. Your Kiss drink holder is here. Beanie hats. Oh, and for those of you who are still stuck in 2020, you can get a full set or any individual Kiss face mask to protect yourself through here. So lighters, you name it. Oh, beer pong tables.
Oh, okay.
There's
That's
at
perfect.
least 3 or 4 different beer pong tables, more cornhole sets, coolers, Kiss socks, dress to kill ties are on here, lunch boxes still. So Kiss, again, I think undisputed, they are going, there's your ping pong paddles that go with there, too, and a dartboard if you want to throw darts at Gene Simmons' face.
Well, and here are some of the other things that they've sold. They're famous for their condoms. That came out in 2002, and it was labeled Love Gun Protection. They had a Kiss knife and money clip set that came out. There was the Kiss house door key. It's a key for your house, but it's Kiss. It's made to be like Kiss. Kiss perfume was sold at Macy's. Wow. Yes, you can smell like Gene Simmons if you want, or Ace Frehley, or whatever. There was Mount Kissmore. It was like Mount Rushmore with the Kiss faces on there. You could buy that. That was exciting. There's the Kiss table lamp. The Kiss wall fountain. If you need your Kisses in, you could buy that, put it on the wall, and have that water going. Kiss the wine. It was non-alcoholic and sold at Spencer's. So they had that.
Grape juice.
Yep. Kiss sock monkeys. I mean, who doesn't want that? Kiss cookie jars. Kiss potato heads. Mr. Potato Heads in Kiss. And the Kiss inflatable tongue, which always popular. I mean, it's incredible.
And all of these were officially licensed at one point in time.
Officially licensed by them, that they were selling. This is and I think a lot of this comes from Gene Simmons, and that mind of his is always going, I wonder, what if we did just sell an empty bag, but say they're air guitar strings? What if? And will someone buy it? Yes, they will.
You can equate, I think, that drive and that marketing, we'll call it a genius, because they sold bags of air for $5. Aftermarket, they're going for $13 now, I guess. But I think we can equate this to somebody more current, that being Taylor Swift.
Yeah.
And the marketing genius that she or her group or her corporation, her entity has become. The fact that the Midnights album sold and you had to buy all 4 copies of Midnights because the back cover made the face of a clock, and then just perchance you could purchase the clock assembly from her website.
It was just announced today she is a billionaire now.
Yeah, I did see that.
And it was done all through music and merchandising. Amazing.
So it's out there, and the fans, either casual fans or super fans, will seek this merchandise stuff out. Mm-hmm. And it's big business.
It excites you. If you're a super fan, there's no doubt it does excite you, but it gets to the point, how much can you really afford? Yeah. Because the prices, if they're buying it, well, the next time it comes out, let's jack that up a little bit more, because obviously inflation's a part of it, and you keep pushing that price up to see what is the breaking point?
So what are some of the strangest artist merchandising things that you've seen? Have you ever run across some stuff you're scratching your head? I mean, the Kiss condom, that makes a little bit of sense knowing it's as well. I just hope they weren't used.
Yeah.
Some that I found here, and this one just absolutely screams irony to me. And you can buy a Metallica Monopoly set, or you could at one point buy that. Just let that sink in for a second about them controlling. Some of the other stuff, fake mustaches were officially licensed by Weezer at one point in time.
Okay.
And I'm not a big enough Weezer fan to know. Alice Cooper sold mascara. That one makes sense. You can kind of get into that as well. Another Kiss item shows up here on this list, a Hello Kitty. That was a whole big fad too.
Yes.
So you think cuddly Hello Kitty stuff, you of course think Kiss.
Yeah.
And their stuff as well. There's the Kiss coffin showing up there. But there has been just some truly bizarre items out there through the years that have been disassociated in some way, shape, or form from the band or from an album release on its own, but available for folks to get.
Well, I was looking as I was looking on I was looking for some of this. One thing, actually, I found this on Amazon. It was, when the Beatles first started, they all had those jackets. And they were called, I guess, a Dezo Hoffman jacket. They were custom made. Well, there is one out there signed by Paul McCartney. There's only one available, so please, there's only one. First come, first served. You can find it on Amazon, $31,000.
Wow.
But it is signed.
You think back, though, too, when the Beatles hit big in 64, 65, they were selling not only the jacket at that time, but the Beatles wigs. Mm-hmm. Folks could have their hair look like the Beatles. I do remember that.
That's a good point. Beatles really went all out. And Elvis Presley.
Oh, yeah.
If you were to think about that, just think about lunch kits.
Yep.
The merchandising of lunch boxes. Well, Kiss, obviously, had tons of them. But the Beatles was huge. Elvis, all of that. So, I guess, you can look really far back. Probably Elvis maybe was one of the first to really merchandise. I don't know, maybe Frank Sinatra. I don't know. Frank Sinatra lunch kit? No,
possibly.
Yeah, I think we're still using brown paper bags at that time.
Except with the rest of the Rat Pack, the bags were not holding lunches.
Yeah,
brown paper bag. That's something else, especially for Dino.
Yes.
So, I mean, this has obviously been around a long time. As long as artists have been earning money off of their art, there have been others that have been, or the artists themselves, earning money off of their image and likeness and their popularity.
Yeah, we're just now going bigger. We've taken, what was kind of simpler and gone to a massive scale on what can be done. But we also have, you think, back in when you think of Elvis and you think of the Beatles, adults weren't buying that.
No.
Because it was only the kids' music. Now, the people that are buying this, a lot of them, except for Taylor Swift, but they are adults. They have money. They might be in their 50s. They might be in their 60s. What's Kiss? Kiss Army started in the 70s. Those are all adults. They're getting ready to retire. Some of them have money. You can put this stuff out there. A lot can afford it.
Well, and that's targeted marketing because you don't want to waste your money creating a product that the people who have the disposable income aren't going to go for. But again, as these rockers age, and we're all guilty of this too, we're aging with them. I have fond memories of Rush from my earlier years. And so, here I am in my mid to late 50s buying a plastic doll with big googly eyes because it's got Rush on it. I'm guilty of it too.
Yeah.
So.
But it's just it becomes part of the collection.
Yep.
And as we look, and again, I look back, in the 60s and 70s, I don't think buying records was really considered a hobby. It's just something you did. I want that music. As we've gotten older, it's turned into this hobby. It's turned into collectability. And with collectability, it branches off into these other directions to target market you.
This comes back to other side discussions you and I have had about what kind of a collector are you. We are vinyl collectors. I have got this little branch off. I've got a shelf of trinkets related to some of the stuff that I enjoy. But when it comes to it comes down to it being like vinyl. How much vinyl can you have given the space that you're allowed to have that in? And if you start introducing other items that are not records that fit neatly onto a shelf into this mix, what do you do space-wise?
Yeah.
That gets tougher, too.
It does. And then suddenly your spouse or your boyfriend or girlfriend's looking at you. No, it's not going here.
You don't need the full-size Kiss cutout dolls in the living room with us here.
Yes. There's a good one. Yes, the big cutouts that you'd find. I just have a Dale Earnhardt one.
We keep picking on Kiss here, and I don't mean to. It's just that that's so prevalent. I remember, well, we talked about the inserts that would come with the records. That's being part of that collecting experience.
Yeah.
But what Kiss did, and a lot of other artists did this too, is one of those inserts would be a merchandise sheet, the stuff that you could mail order to get from the band. Kiss
Devo.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Think of the Devo stuff. Man, I always wanted one of them energy caps. It was just a cheap piece of plastic, but Devo was really good at that.
But again, they're capitalizing on their fame and their quirkiness in this case. That's their branding, if you will.
And social media now makes it much easier to do all of this. And you can reach a large audience out there. And so, when we were young, obviously, as you mentioned, there would be a poster and we'd put it on the wall. Now you feel absolutely guilty even opening it up. Oh, God, I'm not going to tear it, am I, or what?
Great example of that is the Dark Side of the Moon Live, the 50th anniversary of the Live at Wembley that came out earlier this year. 2 stickers, 2 posters. And you got that album. I've got that album. Yeah. The posters are still with it. I've opened them up once to check them out and say, hey, those are cool posters. I don't think I'm going to hang those up. No. Hey, I don't really have space. They don't go with the decor. Kim would probably say, why are you hanging a Pink Floyd poster in our living room with all the other art that's in here? And it's not going to work. But maybe here in the store. But I'm not going to disturb that package originally, because now I think I know better.
Mm-hmm. Yes, it's not quite the same as a teenager. Now, maybe teenagers still do it, but it makes you even wonder, do they? They still might. I don't know.
They might, but down the line, that messes with the collectability.
It does.
Oh, no.
Yes. Down the line, if you did it, because how many of us are still looking at something you see come up, oh, I used to have that. Oh, man.
Or I get folks come in, I've got a copy of Dark Side. Is it worth anything? Well, eBay says it's worth this. I said, well, that one that sold for $400 to $500 probably had the posters and both stickers in there, and it's probably in mint condition. But this comes back to the other argument that we've always had, too, is that the stuff is meant to be enjoyed. Mm-hmm. You joke about, did you open up the Funko Pops and play with the dolls? Yeah. Well, no, I didn't do that. Well, I'm not going to play with the dolls this time around. They're actually display pieces, but that's not something. Maybe if I was younger and I had that, I would have thought this is cool to open them up and put them in different spots, but not now.
Yeah, it's when things turn into a hobby, that's what happens, especially with collectability. I remember back, a number of years ago, I had these Star Trek figures. They were in the packaging, really nice, and I had them. They were in a closet. They were nice and organized. I come home one day, and there's my oldest son playing with them, playing with all of them. I just look, hey, Dad, look what I found.
Oh, no.
So much for that.
Well, I'm going to date myself. I have a bunch of old Star Wars figures, but when I was a kid, I played with them.
Of course.
And so, now they're not worth anything because they've been beat to heck by, some 8-year-old kid.
Yep. You never know. We never know. And as we get older, I think we buy, like rock and roll, we buy this collectability stuff and thinking that, hey, this stuff could become worth something. Now, if time it becomes worth something, I'll probably be dead. But, it could be because we've seen what's happened through the ages. As a kid, you don't think about that because you have nothing to reference.
That's a bit of a tricky conundrum then, because then you get into the fact, well, I would really love to enjoy this. Mm-hmm. Do we open? Of course, I'm going to open vinyl and listen to it. We've talked about that. But do I need to put the poster up nowadays? No, but could I? Maybe.
If I have a Lego set, if it's a rock and roll Legos, do I make that Lego set or do I keep it in a box? Because a Legos in a box, are worth a whole lot more than once they're opened up.
Once they're opened up and stepped on accidentally.
Yeah, yes. A Kiss puzzle's worth a lot more if it's sealed than it's been done.
And I think that, going back to Funko Pops and their diorama type items like the Rush cover or the other covers, they're meant to be left in that box. They're not meant to be opened up and the box is the display
Yes.
in this case.
It is.
Interesting.
Yes, very much so.
So are you going to go out and drop some coin, or you want to get a shovel and we'll go looking for some Funko Pops?
We're going digging. They're out there somewhere.
They're somewhere buried.
The whole, everyone in the U.S. is going to be out there digging around, and we're going to find them. We're going to find them.
The great Funko Pop treasure of the late.
Yes. The new gold rush is on. It's for Funko Pop.
Oh my. Well, what do you folks think? How deep does your collecting sensibility go? Is the music, the vinyl, the cover good enough for you? Or do you dive deeper into things like the extra merchandising? I mean, how big of a super fan do you need to be to want to get the air guitar strings and a coffin to go with it? Or do you suffice with just a couple of Funko Pops sitting on the shelf? We'd love to hear from you.
Yes, please let us know. And if you do have those air guitar strings, we'd like to hear about that too, because they've gone up in value. Congratulations.
There you go. Doubled in value in just a couple of years. To interact with two guys talking about records, all you got to do is search for us on Facebook. Look for two guys talking about records. We did talk about some records today, didn't we?
Yeah, we did. I think so.
Okay, so we're okay there. So look for us on Facebook. Say hi, do whatever you want to do. But otherwise, we appreciate you guys listening every week to our nonsense on Spotify, iHeart, Podbean, and YouTube. And it's, as always, great to have you here.
Yes, thank you very much.
Now, let's go listen to this Randy Holden, shall we?
Yeah, that would be great.
We'll talk to you folks next week. Thanks.
Bye.